I have been reading, and the other night just finished Portraits of Decay by J.R. Blaine's. And I'm not going to give a great detailed summary because from the place I left off to finishing up the book, I made no stops in between. That's just, one, it's too much material to cover. Second, I do recommend this book. You reading it for yourself, and I don't want to give too many details about how it ends, though as I'm speaking here, I may end up speaking about specific instances. I'll just see what comes up. Anyways, before we go any farther, I do recommend the book. If you've seen any of the videos I've made on this so far, then you already know. If you don't know, you can go back and look. And if anything there piques your interest, you can pick up a copy for yourself. And yeah, I don't know how any other way to say it, but I recommend it. I think this is a worthwhile book to get at. This is a book that, as it's closing out, as the curtain is preparing to fall, it ramps things up to 11. There's a general sort of graph that you could apply to this book where it starts up here, drops a little bit and holds, and then just ramps up, and then shoots up, hockey sticks the tail end of the graph, just hard. I mean, the ending of this, there are particular chapters in here where I'm just reading this aghast, really, because I just decisions made by characters. Not that it's like, why would they do that? But it's like, why would they do that? You just sit here with your jaw on the floor. It's just like, why was this decision the one made? In the good way of that, it's not like some sort of confusing on the reader's part, but it's just like, comes at you unexpected. Now, in this, there's a pretty grim ending, which I mean, like, grim horror. A grim ending in a horror novel. What does it actually mean here? I have this theory that I can't defend and can't prove, but that the endings of horror novels or horror movies, or really just anything in that vein, is dependent generally on the economic turn of the decade it is written in. So if there's an uptick in the economy, then there's going to be a victorious ending, where even though many people may die, there may be much destruction and suffering, there's at least an optimistic tone towards the ending. If there's a economic downturn, then the ending is going to be more grim, a bit more nihilistic. I wouldn't necessarily say the ending of this book is going for a nihilistic tone. I'm not saying anything because you don't know how it is. I'm going to ramble a bit because I'm working without a net, without notes. So every book, at least most every book, I'm sure there's some that don't fit this mold. It's going to be comprised of certain different things that you're probably familiar with from your third grade English grammar and composition class. You have plot, setting, character, theme, and then I'll add in this fifth mystery element, whatever that may be. And on each of those qualities here, like I say, for instance, setting, the book wants to be very New Orleans, and in certain aspects of that, it achieves the effect. Certain qualities of the book, especially as it deals with the interaction between characters in that overlap, is very New Orleans. But I won't. Not that I'm picking on J.R. Blaine, so I'm trying to criticize him too much, because that is a difficult thing to do, to take someone and place them in the city, whatever that city may be. And for a book this size to really do that in a super robust way would it would have ballooned this book out 50, 60, maybe 100 pages to really, really super hard force someone onto the streets of New Orleans. But which I will give Mr. Blaine's here some credit. He doesn't try to twist your arm with it. There's a sufficient amount of the New Orleans flavor to whet your appetite, to satisfy the palate that you are, in fact, with these people in Louisiana. So it rides that, for me anyways, it rides that middle line of not too much, not too little. It's satisfying. maybe I would have liked just a little bit more of it, but that is just my personal taste. I think for the book as a whole and its quality, there's a sufficient amount of work done on the settings to put you there. And like I say, in my overlap with characters are well done. Each person's thoughts and motivations, their intentions to say, and their motivations, if those aren't the same thing, are well played out. You're not going to be sitting here, except maybe in a couple spots, you're not going to be sitting here going, what inspired this course of action? Everything's if it's not insulting to say that it's just on a straight line, it's direct. It's to the point, right? What the characters are doing here, it's to the point. It's for the reader's point of view, it's understandable, right? You can observe these people and make sense of their actions based on information that's given and revealed within the scene, right? Like say, for instance, with Jefferson and the criticism I had for him in future videos, past videos, saying he just sort of mealy mouthed and wishy washy and all this sort of stuff. Those criticisms of Jefferson's character stand because those are criticisms of his character, like his personality. But the means by which those personality traits were brought to bear and the understanding the audience gains of Jefferson as a character through his actions and through what's revealed in the narrative, that's what works. That, you know what I mean? If I have a contention with a character, it's because of the character, not because of the way the character is described. The description, the narration surrounding the characters was pulling all the weight. It was doing all the work to put that mental image in my head, and that's an outstanding thing because a lot of books don't do that. What was on there? And plot. Now the plot here, there's some twist in it just because there are so many different characters working and doing their own thing. You never get the sense that the characters are just waiting off in the wings for their cue to come in and say the line. Like there's an actual living environment here where each individual, through their own motivations and machinations, is going about their own business, trying to accomplish their own ends. And so here, the plot is not so circuitous as to be completely so as to be completely misunderstood, but it is worthwhile. It is complex in a worthwhile way, right? It's not a straight line from beginning to end. There are bumps and roadblocks here and there between to give some texture to the plot and different revelations and people gaining knowledge and insight into things that had been previously they've been kept in the dark on. So that I appreciate a good bit. And theme, I talked about the themes of this book pretty well, I think, in the first 3 or 4 videos I put out here. I won't beat them around much more, but it is, and this is a quality that's I think I most respect in authors is when they know what they're trying to say, what they're trying to accomplish, and then all the rest of the story is formed around pointing at this idea. Right, so J.R. Blines, he knows what ideas he wants to attach to the zombie story. Talking about control, talking about abuse, talking about the effects that has on people and sort of like it's rot within their souls this can have on a person. He knows that's what he wants to talk about, and so everything else in its texture, the plot, character, settings, is molded in order to support those ideas, and that puts it a step above most everybody else. Just anyways, a lot of people like say, well, I won't name any names, but not every book accomplishes that sort of focus. Now, as far as the prose of what is written, it was not always to my taste, my personal predilection. But I would say it is competent writing. There are a few places here and there where I thought there was maybe an awkward phrase or something was said strangely or not as forcefully as what could have been written. But all of that is just personal preference, personal taste. Anyways, it did not inhibit my enjoyment of the book. But like I say, it was just one of those things like you'd run into an awkward phrase every, fifth chapter or something that would make, you'd have to read it twice. But even in that, like I say, it's competent. It's above competent. J.R. Blaines was able to take people that I would not like in any other book, and over the course of the whole thing, I actually grew interested in the outcomes of these people, hoping that in some fashion they would succeed, even though at the start, I was, a bit aloof about whatever might happen to them, especially towards the end. And this probably getting spoilers here is in classic Shakespearean style for a drama, a tragedy. Most everybody's dead at the end of this, at least all the principal players. And towards the start, it's revealed that two characters, Jefferson and Nevaeh, are carrying on a relationship where Jefferson is cheating on the one character, Gemma, and that that kicks off all the rest of the plot there. So it's not. This is not an admirable trait. This is something for which in other stories like the machinations of the universe would connive to punish these people, and they are. It's sort of that thing. Raymond Chandler wrote to someone. He said that the basic premise of a murder story, or of a detective story, rather, is that murder will out. Through the machinations of the stories, there will be some reveal of some crime, and that some sort of justice will be done on the perpetrators of the crime. Somehow, it's like somehow this whole thing will screw around and come out so that the sin that has been committed will have judgment placed on it. And I've been thinking like a lot of horror stories function in that same way, and that horror stories principally about two things. They're about revelation of a crime and about the execution of punishment on that crime. The murder will out. Actions have consequences. You know what I mean? So even here, like I say, J.R. Blaines gets you to a point, or at least he got me to a point where I was invested in the outcome of these characters, and I wanted them to succeed. But there's all this stuff back here that's got to come crashing down, because that's the universe setting itself right. That's the universe meting out punishment on these people for their past misdeeds. Even if they're either totally vile or partially sympathetic, there's still this misstep back here that has to be dealt with in some fashion. It's I'm rambling. I don't know if I'm making the most amount of sense. I'm trying to possibly say too many things at once and don't have all my thoughts completely in order of how to arrive there. Just one question that I want to ask of myself is would I read this twice? Would I set this on the shelf for a period of time and bring it down sometime later and read it again? Probably not. But it is worth reading at least once. And I will keep my eyes open for anybody whom I might send this to, because I would be interested in hearing somebody else talking about this. It's not so much that I would want to read it twice, but I would be interested in hearing what somebody else has to say about it. All right, what kind of train of thought is this going to put somebody else into? Right, it's that kind of book that you kind of want to know what other people are going to think about it. But anyways, to cap it all off, yes, I'll say it again. I do recommend you read this book. It's not going to change your life, but it is going to entertain you for a few evenings. It is going to make you squint, make you think about things for a little while. And I would like to thank Steve from Check Your Shelf once more for sending this to me. That was, it was really nice of him to do that. And Steve, I hope you got your money's worth out of this one. Okay, that's all I got to say about that. So I'll talk to you later.